Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Rundown. I will be your host today, Craig DeLuz, coming at you from the West Coast, the left coast, behind the Iron Curtain, otherwise known as the Sierras. And today is Free for All Friday.
Thank God it's
Friday. Friday.
thank God it's
Friday. 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 Hey, put a smile on your face. Things are coming your way. Out there somewhere tonight is the right time.
Excuse me, folks. Had a little bit of a coughing fit. That's why I let the music run a little bit long. Hey, it's Friday. We're having a good time. Thank God it's Friday. That's the movie? In case you guys don't know what movie that particular scene was coming from and that music was coming from. Thank God it's Friday. Watched that movie. Remember watching it a lot when I was a kid. Tons of really good movies, I think. Like when I look back on when we were a kid that were comedies. Was just watching with my son-in-law the other day, Blazing Saddles. For those of you who have never seen Blazing Saddles, well, you don't know what you're missing. You need to go back and watch Blazing Saddles. Just saying, it's hilarious. Anyway, but we're here. It's Friday. We're having a good time. Mike is not on vacation, but he's off doing some work, having a good time without us. I know. I know it's hard. You're stuck with just me, but hey, we're gonna have a good time nonetheless. All right. That means that your participation, man, would always make the show better. If you're watching the show live, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern, on YouTube, on Facebook, on Twitter, on Rumble, if you're watching us, we're taking your comments live. I'm checking them out. I'm looking right over here, right? So I got the thing up right over here, and I just click on the thing here, and it lets me know whenever you guys comment. Now, if I find it to be interesting, I will share it, right? If it's not interesting, I won't. Sometimes it can be as simple as, "Hey, I'm watching you from Alaska," right? That's kind of interesting. You don't have to agree with me. If you disagree with me, hey, that makes it even more interesting. But just know that if you disagree, I do reserve the right to mock you.
Oh wow, is that a mockingbird?
Man, isn't the mockingbird? Isn't that a mockingbird?
Yes, we do reserve the right to mock you, or as Mike would say, we will mock you. Not because we want to be mean, but because it's entertaining. And, it's in particular entertaining to me. So, anyway, we'll have a good time. It's all in fun. It's all in jest. Everything we do here is all about what we like to call infotainment, right? We don't just want to provide you information, but we also want to provide you with some entertainment, kind of make it entertaining. Kind of, what we do here at the Rundown is we kind of present the news to you kind of from an everyday guy's perspective. You know, Mike and I, when we started this program 5 years ago, 5 years ago, matter of fact, we're about to hit our 1,000th episode. But when we started this, he was doing gun rights stuff. He was doing gun stuff on Arms from Radio. I was doing morning coffee with Craig. We were all talking gun stuff, and then when we were done, we'd always sit around and talk politics. And so we figured, why not start a show where we talk politics? And so that's what we're doing here. And so we hope that you guys enjoy the program. We hope that you get something out of it. And if you don't, well, just know that we get something out of it. Anyway, let's go ahead and get into the program. And we're going to start off the way we always do, with a quick shout out to our sponsors. We're going to start with Hitman Industries. Hitman Industries, where you can get rifle and pistol caliber barrels at any length, right? If you've purchased an AR in the last few years, there's a good chance you already have one of their barrels. So why not get another one? Whether you're looking to do a brand new build or whether you're looking to rebarrel an old rifle, check out hitmanindustries.net. And then we've got the California Republican Assembly, California's largest and fastest growing grassroots conservative organization in the state. Ronald Reagan once referred to CRA as the conscience of the Republican Party. You need to learn more about them. Go to cragop.org. That's cragop.org. If you want to be a part of California's future today, you got to join CRA. And then we've got the best in concealed carry concealed carry tactical holsters available on the market. All you have to do is go to Hog Holsters. That's hogholsters.com. That's HAWG holsters.com. That's right. It's helping Americans wear guns. And if you go there and you use the discount code The Rundown, all caps, no spaces, one word, just like it is right up there, you're going to get a discount when you do your purchase. So check them out today. That's hogholsters.com. And then finally, if you're the weather's changing, so obviously you're going to need to take a look at some new seasonal gear, right? The fall's coming up, winter's coming up, wet weather is coming up. So maybe you need some wet weather gear, right? Maybe you need some rain gear. Maybe you need some camping gear. Maybe you need some outdoor gear. Maybe you need a cap. Whatever you need. You can find all things tactical except the gun at uscombatgear.com. They have a huge selection. They specialize in group pricing, right? Group specials. So you want to go there. If you got a group, if you have an agency, if you have a club, if you have a department and you're the purchaser for them, you need to go to uscombatgear.com where you can find all things tactical except the gun. All right, let's see here. I wanted to start off, and this is, most of today's show is going to be talking about how Donald Trump is continuing to win. And I know that for people out there who are never Trumpers, this is probably not a topic that they really want to talk about or something that they want to hear about. But let's be honest, Trump is continuing to win, and he's winning big, especially in the Middle East. Say what you want about his position on tariffs, because I've said what I want, and I have my issues with his tariffs. You can say what you want about some of the ways, some of the things that he says or how he says it, and I have, and I'm saying this to say to you, I've had my criticisms of Donald Trump, but as I've always said, when the man does well, I will praise him. When he doesn't, I will critique him appropriately. And in this particular case, it's hard to say that there's been any U.S. president that has had more success in the Middle East than has Donald Trump, and he's just adding to it. It wasn't just the Abraham Accords, which basically got multiple. I think it was like 3 different Arab nations, let me clarify specifically, Muslim nations to recognize and normalize relations with Israel and recognize their right to exist. But in this particular case, in terms of dealing with the issue with working to try and bring an end to the war in Gaza, it looks like we are on the path as Hamas has actually agreed to surrender the hostages under the peace plan that was put forth by President Donald Trump. Let's read a little bit about it here. It says Hamas said Friday, that would be today, that it's agreed to release all Israeli hostages, living and dead, and said it was ready to begin negotiations for a peace deal. In a settlement, the militant group said it had held extensive consultations to reach a responsible position in dealing with President Trump's proposal for an end to the fighting in Gaza, which is set to enter the 3rd year Tuesday. Hamas said it was ready to immediately begin negotiations through mediators to realize details of the arrangement. It also said it would release the hostages once, quote, field conditions are met, meaning once Israel pulled back its forces to the lines of engagement set forth in Trump's peace plan. The IDF is currently well into Gaza, closing in on Gaza City. So this is a huge deal because it seemed before that no matter what was ever put up, there was never any. I mean, they refused. They would absolutely positively refused to release all of the hostages. And largely that was because they feel like once they release all the hostages, they have no leverage. And they're right, they don't. But at this point, they don't have that much leverage anyway. You may recall last week, President Trump came out with a 20-point plan. And in this plan, he laid out what it would take to get peace. And it was a plan that was so concise and so good. You had both the right and the left saying this would be a very good deal. This is a very good deal. This is the best peace plan that they could possibly come up with. It doesn't necessarily lead to the end of Hamas, which I think is one of the challenges that Israel would have had with it, but it does ensure that they do not govern in Gaza. So in other words, the Hamas government is gone. So if Hamas as an organization still exists, if the people still exist as a terror organization, Israel's still going to go after them. They're still going to hunt them down. But there will be no hostilities in Gaza. In other words, they'll set up a separate government. They'll set up a government. They'll be there. There'll be an interim government. Anyway, all of that having been said, it will spare the lives, I guess you could say, of the people of Israel, at least as far as the U.S. is concerned. I don't know, but the big thing here, I think the big thing that brought this thing around was when Qatar came out in favor of this peace plan, because keep in mind, Qatar's been the ones that have been kind of basically covering for the leaders in Hamas, letting them stay there in Qatar. This is Qatar or Qatar, but they're the ones that have been letting them stay there. Right? They've been protecting them. Quite frankly, they're trying to play both sides, but they've really been kind of on Hamas's side. And this is the first time they're like, yeah, this is a deal you should take. And the reason why that's significant is because Israel, the reason why they do this is because Israel has kind of made it clear, if this thing continues, we're coming into Qatar to go after the leadership of Hamas. We don't care about y'all. We don't care about your sovereignty anymore. If you are going to harbor these criminals, we are going to come get them in your country. And while we don't want to see innocent Qatari citizens get injured, that's second on our list to putting an end to Hamas. So I think that's the reason why Qatar came to the table, and Hamas really doesn't have they don't have a leg to stand on if Qatar is not with them. So I think that that strike there, even though they were not successful in taking out all of the leadership of Hamas with the strike that they did in Qatar, I think the message was sent. And that message was, we're not scared to come in. We are no longer going to hide out here in the outskirts. We're no longer going to give you protected nation status. We're going to come in there and we're going to do what we got to do to take out our enemies. And if you decide you want to protect them, then you can catch a hot one too. And I think that is, if anything, that is what helped bring it to the table. But in the end, once again, it's a Trump win. It's hard to see it as anything else, but. And then there's another Trump win. And this is a huge one, by the way, because this is one that I think if there are any of us out there, any conservative out there who has said, I don't want to say conservatives, anyone out there who's been in opposition to sanctuary municipalities, sanctuary states, sanctuary cities, and we've always said, look, if you're going to ignore federal law, then you shouldn't get federal dollars. If you're going to not just ignore, if you're going to subvert federal law, then you should not be getting federal dollars. Well, guess what? A court has ruled that yes, Trump can in fact withhold federal dollars from municipalities that are sanctuary jurisdictions. It says here, a federal judge ruled against 2 sanctuary cities this week, ensuring President Donald Trump can move forward with blocking certain Department of Justice grants to such jurisdictions that refuse to cooperate with immigration and customs enforcement. Earlier this year, Trump signed 2 executive orders, both designed to get sanctuary cities to cooperate with ICE as they enforce federal immigration law or risk losing certain federal funds. Soon after, Trump signed the executive order, the sanctuary cities of Chelsea and Somerville, Massachusetts, filed a lawsuit claiming they would suffer irreparable harm if the orders took effect. On Thursday, Judge Nathan M. Gorton sided with the Trump administration and against the sanctuary cities. Quote, this court acknowledges the nuances and complex relationships that characterize the administration of municipalities and how they prioritize constituent services, Gordon writes in his ruling. Quote, those complexities notwithstanding, the cities still bear the burden of demonstrating to this court it is not just possible, but likely that without injunctive relief, they will suffer imminent and irreparable harm. Plaintiffs have not done so. For the foregoing reason, plaintiff's motion for preliminary injunction against the defendants is denied. So what this means is he has not necessarily ruled that that it's right for him to do it. It's just what he's saying is he can do it because you haven't demonstrated that you're going to experience any harm. So, in other words, they wanted to put in place a temporary injunction that would prohibit him from being able to do it while the case was taking place. He's saying, well, no. Now, one of the other things that factors into that is is the defendant is the plaintiff likely to win? If the plaintiff is likely to win, it increases the likelihood that you'll get this sort of injunctive relief. If you're not going to win, so he may also be tipping his hat as to whether or not he believes that the plaintiffs actually have a case. Because I think what Donald Trump did here is he didn't just go after all federal funds. He went after specific federal funds, those related to the Department of Justice, those related to the enforcement of the law. So in other words, there's a direct tie, or not direct, there's a somewhat of a tie, right? There is at least a tie that they can prove and that they believe they can make in court as to why those, if they're going to subvert the law and the enforcement of federal law, then they ought not get these Department of Justice grant funds. And I think, Donald Trump is good for talking. He's good for bluster, but he's also good for picking people that can go in and identify. Okay, this is how we're going to make what Donald Trump said he wanted to do. This is how we're going to make it happen. And I think there's a good point here. And I think, like I said, when this judge decides that he is not going to put the injunction in place, that means he's not confident that these cities are going to win. So that's a good thing. That's a positive thing. But now, once again, this is just a district decision. But the question now is, if they appeal it, then it's going to go to an appellate judge. And once the circuit, then it'll deal with the entire circuit. Once an appeals court makes a decision, if they support it, then it's that entire circuit. And eventually, this is probably going to wind up being something that's going to go to the entire Supreme Court. And I think because of the narrowness, once again, of the funds we're looking at, I think you're going to see the Trump administration be successful. So once again, another big, huge win. Let's talk about another big win. And this one has to do with the court. Now, President Trump has made a big, huge push in regards to the Second Amendment. And, it's funny. I was actually just talking. I just did an interview with a guy from over in Hawaii. And John Abbott, I believe, is his name. I could be wrong, but he's a firearms advocate, a Second Amendment advocate there in Hawaii. And we were just talking about some things that are going on. And sure enough, SCOTUS has decided to take up a gun case on their behalf, and this one specifically has to deal with the sensitive places rulings, because Hawaii, California, New York all kind of did this. So it says here, this is reporting from Newsweek, Supreme Court takes up gun rights case after Donald Trump's push. It says here, the Supreme Court agreed Friday to review Hawaii's strict limits on where guns can be carried, a case that could reshape how states regulate firearms. It says here, 3 residents from the county of Maui and the Hawaii Firearms Coalition challenged the state's firearms law in a lawsuit filed against Hawaii attorney Ann E. Lopez. A lower court judge blocked the state from enforcing the law, but the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals largely reversed the decision, allowing enforcement. The petitioners filed a petition of writ of certiorari to the Supreme Court in April. Quote, in holding the Second Amendment does not apply to private property open to the public, the Ninth Circuit's decision renders illusory the right to carry in public. Kevin O'Grady and Alan Alexander Beck, attorneys for the petitioners, wrote in the petition. The United States filed a brief in support of the petitioners 1 month later, stating the court should hear the case and reverse the rulings by the appeals court. Quote, the structure and operation of Hawaii's law reveal that the law serves no legitimate purpose and instead seeks only to inhibit the exercise of the right to bear arms. Solicitor General D. John Sawyer, Assistant Attorney General Harmeet Dillon, Deputy Solicitor General Sarah M. Harris, and Assistant to Solicitor General Vivek Suri wrote in the brief. So, one of the things that Hawaii's law does is it basically says, like, basically any place is considered like a public place. So, in other words, if it would restrict your ability to do it in a business, even if the business would have no problem with you having your firearm there. It says nope, you're not allowed. You're not allowed to carry your firearm there, even if they are okay with you carrying a weapon there. And Hawaii's, by the way, is widely restrictive. California's is widely restrictive. So is New York's. I think that the Supreme Court is taking this up in part because they're really speaking directly against this law. These laws really speak directly against what Justice Thomas was focused on when he wrote his opinion on during Bruin. He's like, you don't get to just make every place a sensitive place. And that's pretty much what they did. That's pretty much what California did. That's pretty much what Hawaii did, and pretty much what New York did, as well as other states. And I think what they're going to do is they're going to undo a lot of that stuff. They're going to undo a lot of stuff. No, you don't just get to call a place a sensitive place just because people are there. That doesn't make it a sensitive place. In fact, it makes it a very risky place if people are there. So you don't get to just label it a sensitive place. But anyway, once again, that's going to be a very, very interesting. I have a feeling that next session we're going to hear several Second Amendment cases. I think there are some cases that have been coming up because I know they rejected some earlier, but I know that in many of those cases they had other cases that were coming up. So anyway, it'll be interesting to see how that unfolds. You probably heard the case about the illegal immigrant who got hired as a school superintendent in Iowa. Well, let's just say not only was he an illegal immigrant, but dude appeared to have a pretty extensive criminal history. Anyway, it says here, Ian Roberts, the illegal immigrant who had been serving as superintendent of Iowa's largest school system until his arrest on immigration charges, also had an extensive criminal history. ICE said, pointing to drug, weapons, and reckless driving offenses. Roberts' rap sheet and immigration history reveal a long record of criminal conduct in the United States. He should never have been serving in the role overseeing children in Iowa's largest school district, ICE said Friday. Mr. Roberts was an illegal immigrant and didn't have legal permission to work in the U.S. as of 2020. But somehow, still, he got hired as a top official by Des Moines public schools. U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement said he first entered the United States in 1994 on a visitor's visa and notched a drug arrest in New York in 1996. He had various comings and goings over the next few decades, as well as additional charges. They included a conviction of reckless driving in Maryland in 2012, weapons charges in 2020, and weapons conviction in 2022. And then his latest incident of being found with a gun when ICE officers arrested him late last month. Possessing a firearm is prohibited for illegal immigrants. Mr. Roberts was 4 times rejected for a green card and permanent legal residency. He was granted a student visa in 2020. He was granted 3 employment authorizations to work, covering little more than 3 years of the 3 decades he was here. The last authorization expired in 2020, or 3 years before Des Moines hired him. Des Moines school officials have said they used third party to conduct a background check, and school officials were satisfied enough to hire him. They also said Mr. Roberts claimed to be a citizen at his hiring and showed a social security card and driver's license to satisfy the I-9 requirements for proving work authorization. So Basically, what they're saying is here they didn't intentionally hire an illegal immigrant, but they hired an illegal immigrant. Um, wow. I mean, what do you say to this? What do you? I, this is the sort of person. By the way, just so you know, in some areas of the media, they're actually defending this guy. Yes, believe it or not, in particular in ethnic and black media, they're defending this guy. Of course, I don't think they know about the criminal record. Of course, I don't think they care to look for the criminal record, just like the people who hired him didn't bother to look for the criminal record because they were looking to be, they wanted to be more diverse. And this guy's probably a flim-flam artist. He probably is very, very sharp. He's probably very, very well-spoken. You know, clean and well-spoken. That's the one that Democrats like to use when they refer to people of color. Like he was very clean and well-spoken. Anyway, and he fooled him. And by the way, just so you know, I'm assuming because superintendent jobs pay pretty well. I'm assuming he took a job that some American would do. I think that's fair enough to say, don't you? Anyway, dude will likely from this point he's likely getting the boot now, and rightfully so. So anyway, just another job. By the way, for those out there who are against the idea of, going after criminal illegal aliens, here's an example of one that was influencing your kids at the highest levels. And some of y'all don't care about that. Well, I care. Anyway. All right, folks, that now brings us to our parting shots. Parting shots are brought to you by Hog Holsters. Just go to hogholsters.com. Use the discount code The Rundown. All caps, no spaces. Get your Hog Holster today. All right, let's see. This first one here, I love this comedian. I see this guy all the time. You're going to love this guy. He's basically going to get into it. He's going to talk about why we don't trust the government, in particular, why we don't trust the media. Let me cover it. Why we don't trust the media. Check it out.
I used to love the news. I used to love watching the news. And then I got disillusioned with the news. Now I watch the news to see how the news is being deciphered to me. What's the narrative behind the news, right? I lost faith in the news during COVID. Maybe not for reasons you all may think, but here's what happened with me, okay? COVID hits us, we're all at home, and there's a spike rate for the rest of the world. It's like a 12-degree angle, right? But here in the United States of America, that spike rate is like a 45-degree angle. And we're all sitting at home going, whoa, why are we being affected more than any other country in this world? And the media comes back, guys, here's the thing about COVID. It affects two types of people. One, 65 and older. We have a baby boomer generation, tens of millions, so it's going to be pretty immense. And number two, people with respiratory issues. Respiratory issues. Does anybody know what respiratory issues is? It's political correctness for fat. You're fat. The media had a moment in time to look at us and go, guys, the reason our healthcare industry is wrecked is because we're fat. So let's get healthy as a country. Here's some incentives. Here's some things we could do. They never did that. They said, here's what you got to do. Get a shot, put a mask on. At the very least, they could have said, put a mask on and keep it on. And stop guzzling down 32 ounces of Mountain Dew, you gluttonous, rotund fucking slobs.
Yeah. Well, you guys heard Joe Rogan say that a lot. You heard us say it a lot. The number one comorbidity, aside from age, was obesity, meaning people were too fat. They need to lose weight. It was the number one comorbidity, and you never heard them say, hey, maybe you should, exercise a little bit. Okay, here's another one. And, the scary part about this is that for once, I know this is weird, for once, Joy Reid is saying something that I agree with. Weird.
This is not good, guys. Joy Reid has finally figured us out.
If you go back before the 20th century, there were no income taxes. There were no regulations on business. You could earn as much money as you want, leave 100% of it to your children with no taxes. Right. That's the world they want.
Oh no. That sounds horrible.
She says that like it's a bad thing. Because here's the thing, and she doesn't even realize she's saying this. She believes in wealth redistribution. And by the way, that was something, and I forget who it was who I heard say this, but it was a moment of revelation, right? Republicans or conservatives believe in wealth creation. Democrats or the left believe in wealth redistribution. That's the difference. When it comes to economic policies, that is the difference. Republicans believe in creating wealth. Democrats believe in redistributing, meaning take from those who have to give to those who don't. All right, this next one. Oh, you'll love this song. Well, I'll just play this one for you. You'll get the song as soon as you hear it.
Shut the government down. Up in here, up in here. Democrats want health care for illegals. Like if Jose crossed the border and Jose got measles. Here's an illegal immigrant affordable health care act for your aches and pains. Put some ice on that. Americans should get health care first. Up in here, up in here.
Yeah, that one is hilarious on shutting down the government. Up in here, up in here. All right, what's this next one here? Okay, no, we already did that one. Okay, this song right here you're gonna love. Now this is a bit of a song from a guy named Tyson James, really kind of talking about the absurdity of the whole pronoun gender identity movement. Okay, I have no idea why the lyrics to the song aren't coming up, but anyway, sorry about that one, y'all. Don't know what to tell you. It is actually a very, very cool song. I do not know why let me try to see if I can upload it one more time here. Replace layer. I'm gonna try and see if I can pull the audio in one more time, see if it'll work. But yeah, it is actually a very, very interesting song. There you go. We'll call it that. Bam. Cool rap. And then we'll play it, see if it plays. And it doesn't play. Sorry about that, y'all. I'll have to get it to y'all next time. In any case, folks, that now brings us to the end of our show. But before we go, we got one last thing to do, and that is our part. That is, one more quick shout out to our sponsors. First of all, we got Hitman Industries, rifle and pistol caliber barrels available for you to purchase at hitmanindustries.net. We got the California Republican Assembly, the conscience of the Republican Party. Check them out at cragop.org. We've got the best in concealed carry tactical holsters available on the market at hogholsters.com. That's HAWG helping Americans wear guns. And then we've got the place where you can find all things tactical except the gun. That would be uscombatgear.com. All right, with that, we're going to call it a day. We're going to call it a show. We're going to call it a week. We will be back on Monday. Fun day, gun day. Till then, y'all have fun, stay safe, and we will see you on Monday.